Welcome back to Aurora Tech Channel. Today, I will be reviewing the LaserPecker 4, the latest model from LaserPecker. It's similar to previous portable laser engravers, but this time it comes with a dual laser module with a 10W diode and a 2W IR module. If you have experience with desktop diode laser engravers, you may find that some materials are challenging or impossible to engrave on, like metal, plastic, and even 3D printed parts. However, with the 2W IR laser module, this machine should be capable of engraving on more materials. The maximum working speed is 2,000 millimeters per second, which is 120,000 millimeters per minute. So, on paper, it's 10 times faster than a standard desktop laser engraver, as it uses a dual galvanometer similar to two mirrors to reflect the laser beam instead of using stepper motors to move the laser head around. As a result, the working area will be smaller at 160 by 120 millimeters. It has an extension kit that allows you to extend the working area to 160 by 300 millimeters. Besides the extension kit, you can also use the machine with a rotary roller, like other engravers. You can use the touchscreen to control if you want to move the machine around and work offline, or use the machine handheld style to engrave on vertical surfaces. I would like to thank LaserPecker for sponsoring this video and sending me this machine to review, and with that, let's get started. The machine is protected by a shipping box and a retail box. All parts are packed securely with laser-cut foam for protection. There are quite a lot of parts and accessories since this box contains the laser engraver, a rotary roller, and an extension kit. Let's group the parts separately. For the machine, we have the protective cover, the laser head, the vertical arm or the Z-axis, the base, power supply, and some USB Type-C cables to connect to the computer and other accessories, a pair of safety goggles, and some sample materials. For the rotary roller, we have a claw-style roller and some clamps. For the extension kit, we have the Y-axis, the cutting panel, and a riser for the laser head to use with the extension kit as well as the rotary roller. Just tighten a few screws and we can put the machine together, and it should take just a few minutes. As this machine didn't come with a smoke purifier, I will just put it inside a laser tent. When not using the extension kit and roller, a compact laser tent like the one from my Xtool D1 Pro fits just right and I can have it fully enclosed. I will just use my existing ducting to exhaust the smoke outside. Since this machine comes with its own software, I will download and install it. The user interface of this software is really simple. It allows you to draw some basic lines and shapes, import photos, type text, as well as load your own SVG or just drag something from their library. There aren't a whole bunch of selections, but it's good enough for us to start some tests. Let's start with this lion face. I will adjust the size and do a preview. As you can see, the frame is outside the material. I can either move the material to align with the frame or move the frame using the software like this. Okay, it looks good. I will select the material type, which is wood, and leave all the parameters as default. Now, let's send the job to the machine. The job finishes in 2 minutes and 23 seconds. The result seems okay. It looks like the default parameters work pretty well. Then, I will try to engrave some patterns and cut it out. This time, I would like the pattern to be a little darker. As the default depth is set to 5, I will change it to 10. I will also make an offset outline of this pattern to cut it out. For the outline, I will set the depth to 75. If you're wondering how I came up with this number, well, as the software uses depth instead of speed, like how many millimeters per minute or second, which we normally see in Lightburn or Laser Gerbil, it's really confusing at first. So I just tried to mess around with different numbers and tried to get a set of corresponding parameters in my head. Okay, the preview frame looks fine, and we can start the job. The pattern is pretty nice, and the cutout is almost clean, just these areas need a little snap. Up next, I will try some photo engraving. I will choose dither mode and slightly adjust the contrast to 0.2. I will increase the depth to 85 for the line cutout. The preview frame looks good, and I can just start the job. The engraving looks pretty good, and it's in line with other diode engravers. The cutout is a little bit dark, as this type of laser just can't use air assist, but overall the result isn't too bad. The software has a QR code tool, so let's try to make a QR code on a metal business card. I will change the content to auroratechchannel.com. For the material, I will change it to paint coating and leave the default parameters. It's going to use the IR laser, and when the job starts, the laser will switch to IR automatically. The QR code is engraved super nicely, and I'm very happy with the result. Let's use a phone to scan this code, and yes, it's working fine. Then, I will try to engrave on a slate coaster. Since there are no similar materials inside the list, I will stick with the paint coating parameters. If it's too light, I can always change the depth and run another pass. It's a little bit tricky to align a round object with a square preview frame, but I think it looks fine, so I will send the job to the machine. The result is awesome. The pattern is very clear, and it looks great on the slate surface. If you watch my 3D printer review videos, you may have seen me printing this set of drawers a lot. The problem is when I have so many of them, I forget what I put inside. So, I will try to engrave labels on these PLA drawers. As there are no settings for 3D printed parts, I will just stick with the paint coating. It seems the parameters also work nicely on PLA, so I will keep engraving a few more. Black and blue colors both seem to work pretty well. However, when engraving on a gray color, it can still engrave on the PLA, but the text is hard to see. It would be better to use dark colored filaments if you want to engrave on your 3D prints. The result looks good, so I can label all my drawers using this machine. Next, I will try to engrave a name on a stainless steel plate. With the software that allows you to move the object and screen, and that live updates the preview frame, aligning this tiny object isn't too difficult. I will first try to use the IR laser to engrave on one side. It just took around 5 seconds. I will make another one using the diode laser. The one engraved with the diode laser is darker, and this is the comparison between the two different lasers engraving on the same stainless steel. Besides stainless steel, I will also try engraving on aluminum. First, I will try some standard aluminum extrusions similar to what you might see on a 3D printer. By default, it uses 100% speed and 30% depth, but I want the mark to be as dark as possible, so I changed it to an 100% depth. The result of using the maximum power on this aluminum extrusion is excellent. The text is dark and clear, and I have no complaints about it. However, I still want to try engraving on some raw aluminum. I have a 6061 aluminum plate that I normally use for CNC machining, and I will attempt to engrave the same text with the same speed and power settings. Unfortunately, the result is a bit too light, so the text is not as good as the one engraved on the aluminum extrusion. Then, I will try to engrave on a leather wallet. First, I will use fill mode and default parameters to engrave some text at the bottom. Next, I will use line mode with the same default parameters to draw a logo. The result is pretty nice. The parameters work well on the leather wallet, especially for the logo, and the lines, shapes, and all details are clear. After that, I will use the extension kit to engrave on a larger plywood sheet. I will put something to fill it up, including a logo, text, and a QR code. I will use binder clips to secure the plywood to the cutting panel, do a preview, and start the job. It seems using a depth of 15 is a little bit dark on this plywood sheet. However, at least the extension kit is working, so we can engrave a maximum area of 300 by 160 millimeters. Up next, I will use the rotary roller to engrave on a wine bottle. At first, I made a mistake as the picture of the roller in the manual shows the motor on the right side, so you can see the logo I tried to engrave was mirrored. As there are no default settings for glass in the software, I manually set the depth to 50, which was too high. I stopped the job and flipped the roller back to the correct position, adjusted the depth to 30, and tried again. This time it looks better, but the power is still too high, so the surface of the bottle cracked a little bit. I guess starting with 15 to 20 would be the better option. As I saw the software is able to do batch production, I will try to engrave this zebra on some wood tags. I will use the rectangular pattern to engrave 1 column and 3 rows. I will just put 3 wood tags and use the software to align them. The result looks alright, except setting the depth to 10 is a bit too dark for engraving this tiny zebra, as the lines of the head are too close together. Finally, I will try to hand hold this machine to engrave on a vertical surface, like the printer rack behind me. But I found this machine is a bit heavy for me. It's around 2.2 kilograms, and with the protective cover, it's around 2.5 kilograms or 5.5 pounds. I'm not that confident in holding it straight for a minute at an absolutely still position, so I just rotated the stand, which lets you rotate the machine at almost any angle. I will engrave some text on the rack. This rack is pretty old, and the condition of the paint isn't that great, but it still shows what this machine is capable of. Okay, Let's talk about the pros and cons of this machine, starting with the pros. 1. The build quality of the machine is high and the assembly process is easy. It only takes a few minutes to put the base, arm, and laser head together. 2. The touchscreen is user-friendly with a sensitive screen and responsive slide motion. However, in most cases, controlling the machine can be done using your computer or the mobile app, unless you plan to use it as a portable machine for offline engraving. 3. The software is easy to use and beginner-friendly. It allows you to select different materials and send multiple operations such as engraving and cutting to the machine for the same piece of material. The preview feature is particularly useful as it lets you position the object on the screen, and the preview frame on the machine adjusts accordingly. Additionally, their mobile app works exactly like the computer software, which is a rarity based on my previous experience with other laser engraving apps. Most of them tend to be quite useless, but this app version is highly usable. 4. The focal length is set using 2 laser dots. You can adjust the motorized Z-axis by moving it up and down until the 2 dots overlap, achieving the perfect focus. 5. You can rotate the arm at various angles, allowing you to engrave not only on flat surfaces, but also on tilted or even vertical surfaces. Additionally, you have the option to handhold the device and move it wherever you need. 6. The accessories are all well made, and the machine also comes with a riser mount that can be used with the extension kit and the rotary roller. Everything works together very smoothly. Now for the cons. 1. The protective cover is nice, but as you can see in the video, I didn't use it most of the time. The reason is that after completing a job, I needed to lift the Z-axis to remove the workpiece, which then required setting the focal length again due to the movement of the Z-axis. I think it would be much better to have a quick lift feature that allows the machine to lift up, then return to the previous position. 2. The machine does not come with a smoke filter. I noticed that LaserPecker has a smoke purifier box featured on their website, but it seems that this accessory is not yet available for sale. So I had to put the machine inside another laser enclosure to manage the smoke. However, when using the roller or extension kit, the machine does not fit in the standard laser enclosure, requiring the use of another smoke purifier in addition to this machine. To address this issue, I would suggest adding a fan duct connector at the back of the protective cover so the users can easily connect it to a ducting system to exhaust the smoke outside. 3. The software is easy to use and includes preset parameters for different materials. However, LaserPecker could consider adding even more preset parameters for materials like glass, slate, and any other materials that the machine is able to engrave. Another aspect that I'm not used to is the speed setting. Instead of using millimeters per second or minute, they refer to it as depth, and it needs to be set from 1 to 100%. For those who have experience with other laser engravers, they know what speed and power a 10-watt laser is going to use when engraving common materials, but all that existing knowledge has no use here when you're forced to adapt to their depth value. 4. The laser head is somewhat heavy, weighing around 5.5 pounds or 2.5 kilograms with their protective cover. While it may be relatively portable for an adult, as someone who's personally not an adult, I'm not entirely confident in holding this device perfectly still for a minute or longer to let the job finish. In conclusion, if your primary use for this machine is engraving small objects such as leather, slate, metal plates, lighters, wallets, jewelry, and other souvenir items, this LaserPecker 4 would be an excellent choice. With the rotary roller, you can also work on mugs, bottles, and rings. The build quality is high, making it reliable for business purposes. However, if your main use for this machine is cutting wood and working with larger objects, even with the extension kit, the 160 by 300 millimeter working area of this machine may still be relatively small compared to a standard 400 by 400 desktop laser. When it comes to wood cutting, this dual laser machine may not be as effective as a standard diode desktop engraver due to the lower laser power and the absence of air assist. In terms of beginner friendliness, this machine is indeed beginner friendly. The software, including both the PC software and the mobile app, is one of the best free options available with the machine. That's all I wanted to share about this machine. If you're interested in learning more about the LaserPecker 4, I put the link under the description. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to our channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.